right, some off-season player tracking. We're going to play a little bit of a game with this. This isn't the off-season game. That's coming in a second. But
Luke
we're gonna
Sampson, he's winning.
Dang, you ruined the game.
Dang it, I'm sorry.
So I went through Ultiworld and pulled up everyone whose contracts everyone who is, in my opinion, notable into 2023, whose contracts seem to be running out this year. Obviously, as we've learned in the past several seasons, that doesn't really mean that much because players in their contracts early, manufacturers in their contracts early, things happen. But this list consists of players whose contracts seem to be running out this year. So just a little preview. There's a pretty long list of players to be waiting on this offseason.
This is like one of my favorite parts of the year, I think.
So I'm going to, what we're going to do is I'm going to read through all the players.
Okay.
Then I'm going to go back. No, let's do it this way. It'd be faster just to do it this way.
Okay.
I'm going to read the player, and then we're just going to guess where they end up.
Okay. I love all the, like, drama of, like, what company is going to sponsor who and stuff like that.
Now, quickly, there was 2 early extensions that have happened that I've taken note of. Calvin Heimberg is extended with Innova through 2027, 5-year extension. His contract was about to run up. Kyle Klein is extended with Discmania through 2026. And what I'm expecting to happen here soon is that Gannon Burr will sign an extension with Prodigy. His contract runs up next season. Yeah. But with the season he just had.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense.
Renegotiation there. I definitely think that there's going to be a little
none of those
renegotiation. Yeah, I actually want to look up one player that I forgot to put on my list that I want to see. Yes. Okay, I'll put him on the list. All right, we're going to put him right here. All right, player number 1 whose contract is up. I think it's a pretty easy answer. Mr. Brody Smith. He signed a 2-year deal back in 2020. His contract is officially up this offseason. Is he staying with Discraft or is he moving?
I think that he's... I honestly don't know. I think it makes sense to stay with Discraft because he's kind of built his name around like the Get Freaky and stuff. Yeah. So I think it makes sense.
I don't see him moving. I don't really... I mean, I know that I've heard contracts are in negotiations currently, but that's the only insider info I have. So I don't know how negotiations are going or anything like that, but I'd be shocked if he left Discraft. Yeah. He seems to be happy there. He likes their plastic, the Get Freaky zone's iconic at this point. Pretty tough to see him moving. We have a possibility of Katrina Allen. There's not a lot of info out there on her contract, but it seems like she signed a 1-year deal with DGA. Do we think she's staying or moving?
I don't know. She just released discs with them this year, obviously. It seems to me like she would move, but she's definitely DGA's biggest player.
If she's moving, where's she going?
I don't think she's moving.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think she's too tied to DGA because she has the Vortex. She has her name on several other discs. They did special runs, riffs or whatever they were at the beginning of the season. I don't really see her moving. I think she's too tied in. The next player, this one could get very interesting. Evelina Salonen, a player who, if she can figure out her putting, could easily be one of the top FPO players in the world. Actually, is one of the top FPO players in the world with bad putting. She's with Innova. Contract's running up this year. She's staying with Innova, or is she going somewhere?
For some reason, I see her being with Latitude.
Okay.
I don't know why, but I see Trilogy.
I think she's going Discmania.
Okay.
Because I think previously, obviously, when she was with Innova, you could throw Discmania. Now that Discmania's got their whole thing set up, they don't really have a strong FPO team. Yeah. They have Ella Hansen.
Ah.
I could see her being someone that UC...
That makes sense.
Well, I guess not technically UC currently, picks up. I could see Evelina Salonen going to Discmania. Another player on Innova's roster, Henna Blomroos. Another big FPO player that is going to be a free agent this offseason. She's staying with Innova or is she going somewhere?
I think it's just hard to tell with Innova if they're gonna care to keep them or if they're just gonna get. I'm gonna say stay.
I think she's staying. My reasoning is because Jonathan Poole was on her bag, the team manager of Innova for most of towards the end of the season, most of her biggest rounds, he was on her bag.
So she probably has a good relationship with him.
Yeah, that's what I would guess. So I'm going Henna Blomroos stays. Now Austin Hannum, he moved to Prodigy from Discraft a while ago, but then he was on his team with Katrina Allen. But then Katrina Allen moved to DGA. So now Austin Hannum's time's up. Is he staying with Prodigy or is he moving?
I think staying.
He kind of flopped a little bit this year. Let's actually take a look at Austin Hannum's year.
Unless DGA offers him something better, I think he stays because I think he'd be smart to stay because Prodigy's on the rise.
Tough part is I don't think Prodigy has a budget cap. Now, I don't really, or they do have a budget cap. I don't even know if they have. Yeah, he kind of sucked this year.
That's what I'm saying. I think he'd be
notable finishes. He came 16th at Des Moines, 9th at Idlewild, 9th at OTB Open. Everything else at a Pro Tour event was outside the top 25. A lot of them outside the top 40. He didn't cash at several events. Tough. I think he ends up moving. I think he ends up at DGA. I just think it makes sense when you have a couple for them to be throwing the same brand because like during practice rounds and stuff, it just makes life easier
and stuff.
Yeah, it's also just easier when traveling to carry like you can just have a bunch of backups versus like my backups, your backups.
True.
And I don't really think he's worth that much to Prodigy. I mean, when this is the first time I've said his name since his hot takes, probably last offseason.
Yeah, that's true.
So this one could be big. I don't really think he's moving personally, but Jeremy Colling.
Yeah,
his contract is up.
He's not moving.
I'd be shocked. That would be one of the
I'd be excited.
I mean, realistically, as a player, Jeremy Colling's not worth a ton anymore.
As a person,
but
though,
as a person and a personality, he's worth a lot.
Yeah, for sure. I think Innova is going to be interested in keeping him.
Yeah,
and I think that I don't think he has any reason to leave.
No, I don't. I mean, he seems happy at Innova.
Yeah,
one of his best friends works at Innova East. It was like a former roommate. I don't think he's leaving. This one I think is big. Prodigy's got some decisions to make here. So Isaac Robinson's contract is up. He won an Elite Series event. They obviously have to think about, they have Kevin Jones, they have Gannon Burr. Another player also on Prodigy, Alden Harris's contract's up. Alden Harris and Isaac Robinson's contracts are up.
They kind of got a lot of good players right now.
And Ezra Robinson's contract's up. Isaac's brother. Not as good of a season as Isaac, but still has a lot of potential. So Isaac, Alden, Ezra. What do we think happens? I think start with Isaac. Let's start with Isaac Robinson. Stay or leave?
Some of those Prodigy guys, they just seem like they're so bought into Prodigy, you know?
Yeah.
I actually
he one of them.
I could, he's good friends with Gannon because he vlogs with them and stuff. But I also could kind of see him going somewhere else. I think he stays.
I think he's leaving.
Really? Where do you think he's going?
For some reason, I'm feeling Dynamic Discs.
Okay.
I don't know why. Dynamic might not have any cap room left after Ricky and Konner last year. But Dynamic or Discraft? Yeah. I can see him with either of them.
Yeah. I could definitely see that. I feel like he made a little bit of a name for himself this year.
He definitely did.
And so I think right now Prodigy is trying to have a really good team with Gannon and everything. I really do think that Prodigy's going like definitely on a rise right now. And so I think they're going to be interested in keeping him.
They would be smart to keep him. Alden Harris, I think, is staying. I don't really see. He seems when you think Alden Harris, I think Prodigy.
I agree.
For some reason, when I see Isaac Robinson, maybe it's because like something about him reminds me of Chris Dickerson, but like I can just see him with like Discraft or something.
Has Isaac Robinson been in any of the vlogs? Is he part of the Vlog Boys?
I don't watch the vlogs. Trevor would know the answer to that.
Because I think I might have misspoke.
Alden Harris shoots the vlogs.
I'm thinking about Alden Harris.
He shoots the vlogs.
Yes.
He is the vlog.
But I know Trevor wants to be a part of that vlog gang, just like that friend group.
Yeah.
I think
I'm sure Isaac's part of it. But anyways, Alden Harris, I don't think leaves Prodigy.
No, I don't think he leaves.
And Ezra Robinson, I don't really see leaving either. Mainly because he hasn't made a name for himself yet. So I feel like he's not going to get a bigger contract somewhere else. Whereas Isaac, I think, might. Now, Ezra Aderhold, that could be an interesting one. Currently with Discraft, obviously very tied to the Nuke, tied to Brody.
Yeah.
Does he leave or does he stay with Discraft?
I honestly, I kind of think that because of, he's got the freaking bus and everything. I think he stays. I also think that he would take into account, I think he cares about the videos that him and Brody do. I think they think about how it'd be way easier if they were both sponsored by Discraft.
Yeah, I think he stays. I think if he would have had a better season this year, he might leave. Mm-hmm. But I don't think he's going to get a better contract somewhere else.
Yeah.
Because I think, Discraft obviously has the nuke numbers. They know what he can move and stuff like that. Another company would be a bigger risk to sign him than Discraft is keeping him. Mm-hmm. Because he didn't have as good of a season as we probably would have expected or hoped, to be completely honest with you. I think if he would have had a better season, maybe got a win in there somewhere, then he might be moving. But with his current season and everything you were talking about, his ties, I think he stays. Mm-hmm. James Conrad's time is up with MVP.
I think he stays.
He definitely stays. He just came out with the Zenith, the Terra, the Nomad. Yeah. He's got his line of discs with them.
I think he basically is MVP at this point.
I think, which is weird because just 3 years ago he was Innova. It was so weird to think of him not throwing JK AVRs, and now it's of course he's throwing gyro. Mm-hmm. Duh. I agree. I don't think he's moving. I don't think he's going anywhere. This one, I don't know if it's as big of a deal, but it's not as big of a deal as everyone we've named previously, but it'll be interesting. Chandler Kramer, he had a 1 year deal with Lone Star. He obviously had a solid performance at Sula and at the European Open, so that kind of burst him on the scene a little bit. Not a top tier contract coming, but do you think he's moving on from Lone Star to a mainstream manufacturer? Which with Lone Star, he's throwing a mixed bag. Yeah. But do we think he's going to a mainstream manufacturer, or is he sticking with the boutique brands such as Lone Star?
Boutique brands, I like that.
Or we could see a weird Infinite move where he's just throwing full mixed bag.
That's true. I don't know. It seems to me that it would make sense to move, I don't mean this in a demeaning way, to move up to another company.
If he has the option even.
If he has the option. Yeah. But I don't know. Sometimes with those I guess I'll say smaller companies, but it's more the relationships that you have with them. So I don't know. What do you think?
Personally, I don't know what he's going to do. I think it'd be in his best interest to stay at Lone Star. Yeah. Because at Lone Star, he can be the big fish.
That's true.
In a small pond.
Yeah.
Where he can move plastic. Although Nico LaCastro's contract's up, and I have heard that he has a budding relationship with Lone Star.
Oh, okay.
So Nico could be someone who does a little Lone Star gateway action, kind of like he was, because Clash obviously dropped him after the incident. Yeah. His gateway contract was 1 year. So he could be doing a little Lone Star, and that would obviously change it up for Chandler. But as of right now, Chandler Kramer is probably the biggest player throwing Lone Star discs.
Yeah.
So I think it makes sense because I feel like his earning potential is higher at Lone Star in his current state than it is at other companies. Because if he goes to Innova or something, he's just a very small player at Innova or Discraft.
I agree with you. I think that makes sense.
Whereas they can actually see, is he moving plastic and stuff at Lone Star?
Yeah.
The next player I think is another interesting one. Young gun took Simon Lizotte to a playoff. Mr. Robert Burridge, currently with Innova. Should he stay or should he go now?
How long has he been with Innova?
I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know much about this guy at all. He won college nationals, and then obviously at Des Moines took Simon.
I think he's staying.
I think he's going.
You think he's going?
I don't know where he's going, but it just seems like this seems like the type of player where he had a somewhat of a breakout season. He's going to be valuing himself high. I'm not going to say higher than he should be because he seemed like a very complete player. Whereas a company like Innova, really any company that he's currently with might value him lower than he's valuing himself because he's I have the potential. I just look at what I did this season. So I think in that type of relationship, then you go somewhere else, and even if someone else offers you just a slightly better contract, you're just yeah. That's what I don't know. He could easily stay with Innova. Obviously, Innova makes some great plastic and stuff. So, I'm an Innova simp. I would stay with Innova, but I could see him going. The
only reason I was saying staying was because he won college nationals, which means he probably is just a big Innova fan.
Could be. But I could see Discraft trying to pick up an Isaac Robinson or a Robert Burridge to get some more younger talent.
Yeah, that makes sense.
In the pool.
That makes sense.
I could also see Discraft sitting a little bit and going hard after Gannon. next year. So we'll see what happens. But next one, I wish we had Trevor here for this one. Anthony Barella's contract's up.
Ooh.
Originally, he didn't want to go anywhere but Innova. I think mainly because at that time he wanted to separate himself from Paul a little bit more. He wanted to get like out of Paul's shadow.
Yeah.
He's done that. I don't think people call him Mini Paul McBeth anymore.
Yeah, definitely not.
So now it's interesting to see kind of what happens. AB, I think AB has sneaky value because I think that people don't realize how good he is, but I think he seems worse in your head than he actually is, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
He has some very bad finishes. Let's not like he finished.
That's what I was thinking.
He has some bad finishes, but if you look at his season, he also has some very solid finishes. He has several top 20s. He came 13th at USDGC. Like he does. I mean, he finished 7th at Worlds, 28th, 30th, 13th, 21st. That's how he finished out his Pro Tour season. 12th at Des Moines, 4th at Ledgestone. So he has some very solid performances, and obviously he's still a young talent, big arm. Is he staying with Innova or is he going?
You know what? I can see him going.
Where do you think he's going?
I can see him. I kind of see him with like DD.
Okay. I think he stays. Mainly because like when Drew Gibson went to DD for a little bit, we heard him complain some about he couldn't find stuff stable enough and stuff like that.
That
AB is close to Drew. I could see AB if he did leave going to like Infinite, build my own route, but it's tough to imagine him.
I don't think he's.
It's tough to imagine him without Innova.
Yeah, I agree. I just think it'd be interesting.
It would be interesting.
I don't see him going the Infinite mixed bag kind of thing.
The final one we have on the list here this is another possibly one because there's not a lot of info out there about her contract, but Haley King. It seemed like her Innova deal was a 1-year deal. If that is true, then her Innova deal is up.
I kind of forgot she was with Innova. In my head, she was still with Discraft.
She didn't really. Well, she left her Discraft contract early.
Yeah.
Which is when we at that time took that as a sign that Katrina Allen was coming to Discraft, which is not what happened. But she didn't really play like a full season.
Yeah, I think she stays.
Yeah.
I feel like she's barely tested it out, you know?
She did win a major in U.S. Women's.
Boom.
So I think that is something that'll be interesting because like it'll be interesting to see the dynamic, like what happens with Innova. Because like they just put Calvin Heimberg's name on the Toro.
Yeah.
Right? We've seen in the past with Valerie Jenkins that was a problem with Innova. Have they corrected where like you have a major champion?
Yeah.
For one-time major champion here, does she get a disc? Because like if she goes elsewhere, is she gonna get a disc? Like how like that's the type of thing that I think really is what it will come down to in this offseason negotiation if her contract's actually up.
Yeah. She had
it seemed like
the
it was,
Hawkeye, right?
She had the Tour Series Hawkeye.
Yeah.
But I'm saying like actually getting a normal disc. It'll be interesting to see. I also think that the current sponsorship model is like a ticking time bomb right now. Where like players only because like we just saw Calvin get a disc without a major championship. Where like players get their name on a stock disc when you win a major or like when you win Worlds. I don't think that's the future. I don't think because essentially what's happening is like we just like
I don't see how that benefits the company a ton.
Well, previously it made sense because like you would have a like Paul McBeth. Right? Like you knew Paul was moving these discs and his name was recognizable.
Yeah.
So like when you put Paul's name on the Thunderbird, the Rock 3, stuff like that, those discs, like you walk into a store, you might know who Paul McBeth is, you might not know everything in his bag, and you see the Rock 3 and you're like, oh shoot, I want that disc now.
Yeah.
Or like I'm sure they moved way more Novas with Paul's name on them now.
For sure.
But nowadays,
that was during the dominance era.
Yeah. But nowadays, like look, I mean, for instance, just look at the list I just listed, how many players were on there that are like big time contract movements. I think even the like current Tour Series model might get shaken up a little bit because what's going to end up happening is you're going to have so many players like Discraft, for instance, has their like Elite Series team. If you look at their Elite Series team, Aaron Gossage, I believe his contract's actually up this offseason too, but you have like Aaron Gossage, Brody Smith, Corey Ellis. That might be the only ones right now, but you have several that are vying for Elite Series contracts, right? Like that Tour Series disc. But then you have players like Tim Barham, Ben Calloway, Chandler Fry, who just aren't the same caliber as these players vying for it. So now it's a weird situation where it's like these players have their Elite Series disc locked in. Brian Earhart used to have the zone. He would have been in that category before he retired, right? And then you have players who are beating them consistently coming up, and it's like, hey, now we have a decision to make. Do they replace them? Is it a one-to-one swap? And this is the same across every company, right? Is it a one-to-one swap where they get Tour Series and these guys are just out?
Yeah.
Or do we keep them in? And then if we keep them in, now we have to find 3 more Tour Series molds. So now out of nowhere, you have like every single mold you make is being ran with someone else's name on it. And then someone's going to get stuck with a mold that's not going to move as much as another mold. And then they're upset. So then it's like, oh, do we run a Brody Smith and Adam Hammes zone? But like, that doesn't make sense because now you have 2 people competing to sell the same disc.
Yeah.
I think the current model of how disc golf sponsorship is done is the days are numbered of it.
Okay.
I think that some company, one of the manufacturers, going to figure something out. It could be Discraft's model of like players have their own website and then they just like run custom stamp stuff for those players' website, and then the players just get kickback from that. That could be the future model. I don't know. I don't know exactly how it's going to go, but I just think like there's so many players that with how much parity's in the field now are stepping up to that like next tier that it's going to be so hard to keep the current market the way it is and keep every player happy, because like players are going to start like being more and more valued because like a finishing all average finish in the top 20 now looks way better than average finish in the top 20 a year ago.
Yeah.
And like 1 win season looks way better than 1 win season a year ago. I think it'll be very interesting as it moves forward. And this offseason, I think this offseason will be the first kind of tell of that. But all right, we're about to go into our first offseason game. You're not going to want to miss it. But first, quick word from another sponsor.